what this sounds like to me is they're both really acknowledging the fact that Aaron Rodgers is going to play. David Jacoby told me that he felt, regardless of everything that went on during this offseason, that I can rely on Aaron Rodgers to be available when my Detroit Lions play against the Packers. It seems, sir, that you're going to be correct.
It certainly does. Now, Jalen, a couple things. Number one, I spent so much time trying to decipher what this meant for Rodgers and the Packers. I love that you start with, you know what, y'all not Mike and Scotty. That is a good point. They are not Mike and Scotty of football. However, this tells me Adams is at the end of his contract. He tried to get an extension this offseason and it did not work out with the Packers. He's upset with the franchise. Aaron Rodgers, obviously upset with the franchise. He's been talking about that all summer, that these two came together and said, let's post this. Let's send a message to the Packers and the Packers fans that, yeah, we're coming back. You're going to see us on the football field, but this will be the last time you see us on the football field for the Packers. Do you think this is Aaron Rodgers' last year under center, if in fact he does report?
Yes. But here's the deal, Jacoby. He doesn't necessarily control his future because he has a couple of years left on his contract. Davante Adams is the one in the final year of his contract. So in theory, they could play hardball with Aaron Rodgers. And so also, here's the other thing. Is the next team going to acquire Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams?
Ooh.
Just think about that now. This is not just, the potential to get Aaron Rodgers. This is also the potential to get both of those guys at the next location. So if I'm a team, you know what I'm doing? I'm planning. I'm planning right now. I'm clearing salary cap. I'm getting draft capital. I'm doing whatever I can do because if both of those guys become available, that's going to be amazing if a team is able to scoop up both of them.
Well, I do predict Aaron Rodgers does play for the Packers this season. I also predict this. He's going to be late for camp. He's going to eat some of those fines. He's going to show up late for camp. He's going to show up as late as he can for camp. Well, turning our attention to an AFC team that is also in the hunt but hasn't been in the Super Bowl of late, the Cleveland Browns. Here's what their returning star wide receiver, Odell Beckham Jr., had to say about the expectations in Cleveland.
It's just something that feels special about this team, something that feels special with this city. Especially watching the Bucs win a championship, inspires you even more. It's like Cleveland needs a championship, and I think that's the goal, that's the mentality in that building, and that's what I want to be a part of.
The Browns had a nice season last year. They were one of the best teams in the AFC. They're returning a star wide receiver, Jalen. Should we be talking about Super Bowl in Cleveland?
I say yes, Jacoby. And I know that's going to surprise a lot of people. And I get it. You know how much I love Lamar Jackson. Everybody loves Patrick Mahomes. I even see the Titans making big moves in the AFC. I get it. But I'm telling you, the Cleveland Browns, what they've done the last couple of seasons to amass the talent that they have on both sides of the football, they played really well last year. They got a terrific run game, and you get Odell Beckham Jr. back. Here's the key, and here's the question mark to why people are not so sure. The quarterback spot, Baker Mayfield. And I'm here to get on wax, Jacoby, and tell you this. Don't worry about Baker. Don't worry about Baker. I actually seen maturity, poise, and strides made by that guy throwing from the pocket, in particular without Odell Beckham Jr. Now you add him back to the mix, I do believe the expectations should be extremely high for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I wouldn't pick them as a Super Bowl favorite, but they're certainly one of those 5 teams you mentioned in the AFC that are contenders, with the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Titans, and the Browns. Those, to me, are the 5 teams that can make it to the Super Bowl from the AFC. And you mentioned something that's really important for Baker's success, that ground game. Without Odell Beckham Jr., they developed one of the best ground games, not just in the conference, but in the entire league. And when you can establish that, then Baker can build on top of that. On top of that, you're not asking Baker Mayfield to be a world beater, and you add Odell Beckham, and a lot can happen for this Browns team. This could be a breakout team. I can see this going in both directions. That's what's so exciting about this part of the year is everyone's got Super Bowl aspirations until they get to about week 8.
David,
but who knows what's going to happen with these Browns? Talk to me.
I got an important question. Do you think the Cleveland Browns have David Jacoby die easy potential? Is that what I heard?
I'm still part of Bills Mafia. Once you jump into Bills Mafia, it's hard to get out. I'm having to go into Whitney's relocation program if I'm trying to get out of Bills Mafia.
Moving back. I'm going to have to tell Benny the Butcher on you, dog.
To one of the most surprising results of the weekend, and that was Team USA in their first game in group play in the Tokyo Olympics. They lose to France. A complete meltdown at the end of the game. I felt like they had the game won with about 4 minutes left, and then they just stopped scoring, and France did their thing, getting an 83-76 victory. Jalen, are you concerned about Team USA?
Big Daddy Kane once said it, dog. There's no hair on my chest, but I'm one tough cookie. I just figured out something. The solution for Team USA, I might have to go get in shape, dog. I think as a U.S. citizen, I have to go and contribute to this team. But in all honesty, let me tell you the difference. In international ball, you have to work possessions. See, in the NBA, you notice guys can shoot from the logo, and that's normal. In international ball, that's a bad shot. You see the differences in the game? The three-point line is shorter. And also, you have to, again, exhaust possessions. You got to move the ball. You have to cut. It can't just be one action to get an open shot. And like Dame alluded to, when you go against these international squads, they're representing their home countries, and it means everything to them. You remember we did a topic on this show, and we were like, it meant more to Luka to win with his home country than it would to win a championship in the NBA. That's the effort that they're playing with. That's the camaraderie that the opposition is playing with. And Jada Kiss once said it. Why Team USA keep getting blown out?
Let me tell you something. I have absolutely zero concern over this team. Absolutely zero concern. Zero whatsoever. They're going to beat Iran. They're going to beat Czech Republic. They're going to get to the medal rounds. They will not lose another game. They were up. You know you've been part of this team, Mr. Rose. You're up by 8. There's 4 minutes left. You're kind of coasting. All of a sudden, you stop really being aggressive on offense. They lost this game. France kind of took this one from them at the very finish of the game. They will not lose another game. They will win the gold medal, and all of this is going to go away. I promise you. They don't lose another game all tournament long. They will not.
But by the way, Evan Fournier was out there balling, dog.
Yep.
He get buckets. He get buckets in the league. So I wasn't surprised to see him score, but I am surprised to see Team USA struggle the way they do. And I'm also a little surprised that you just are so confident that they're going to win the gold medal.
So confident they win the gold medal. Absolutely. You're talking about them exhausting possessions. They were just exhausted from the plane ride. That's all that was. They will not lose another game. Big shout to Luka, who did put up 48 points for his home country, Slovenia. Sometimes there's videos that me and Jalen need to break down in detail. It's time for you and I to put our ref uniforms on and go to the table. As the Bucs head to training camp, Tom Brady, who is very active on social media, put up this video of him throwing into the throwing machine and then catching it. Jalen, this is fake. I promise you this is fake. There's a lot of discussion about whether or not this is real. I promise this is not real. He did not do this in real life. What do you think? Real or fake, Tom Brady throwing into the throwing machine?
It's the opposite of Method Man. It is not real, son. It is not real, son. It is not real. It is not real, son. It is not real.
No chance. But I do like how on the third throw, they acted like he hit it so hard that it accidentally just tipped backwards and shot up in the air. That was fake. I don't even know if he had a ball in his hand that entire shoot long. But shout out to Tom Brady and his social media staff for always going viral with videos like this. If you threw it in there, it wouldn't just stick for a second. See how it sticks for a second? That would not happen. That's not how physics work. This is a fake video, but shout out to the people on our staff that thought it was real. I'm looking at you, Rob. When we come back, Jalen Anthony Rose. Sounds like there's going to be some superstars on the move this offseason. Is one of them going to be Bradley Beal via trade request? We'll break it all down right after this. You're watching JJ.
Spicy.
Jalen and Jacoby is brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance. Only
coming to you live above Pier 17 here in the South Street Seaport Disco Manhattan, and brought to you by Chase. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen Rose. we have some sound from soon-to-be #1 pick in the draft and future Detroit Pistons, Cade Cunningham, about your hometown. Here's what Cade had to say about the D.
Yeah, I love Detroit. I've already, been listening to Detroit music and things like that way before draft lottery, any of that stuff. So I was already hip to the, culture in Detroit. I mean, it's a city that has a lot of things going on, and I feel like, getting a sports team rolling again would be huge for the city.
Jalen, that sounds like sweet music to Motown's ears. What do you think about Cade and the D?
I just like the fact that he started off by saying he's been listening to Detroit music. So we know about the OGs like Eminem and my guy Royce Nickel 9. But that means he listening to 42 Doug and T Grizzly and Sada Baby and Boldy James. That makes me happy. And Dave Loaf and Cash Doll. So that makes me happy. With that being said, Jacoby, he is a game-changing prospect. You know how much I love my hometown team. It's one thing to have the #1 pick. It's another thing to have a consensus guy to take. And the beauty about his game is he's going to be able to not only score, but he's going to make those around him better. He's an underrated passer, an underrated playmaker. He's shown terrific character. He's going to be a great leader. And by the way, now you got to come to Detroit, go to some games with me, dog. You got to come to Detroit, go to some games with me, dog.
Oh, I'm coming. I'm sitting right in that lounge. They had the Caesars Lounge on the baseline. I'll be right there watching Cade Cunningham and them lose by 10, but show a lot of promise in the process. Show a lot of promise in the process. I like Sadiq Bey, Killian Hayes, Isaiah Stewart. There is a young generation coming into Detroit that will look good around 2024, 2025. Moving on, Mr. Rose, to an impact player. Bradley Beal is being reported by Bleacher Report that he knows he has a decision to make before the draft about whether or not he will officially request a trade. Jalen, it would behoove the franchise if he did so before the draft to help them with that day. Do you think this happens in the next 48 hours?
And shout out to my brother Shiz215. Ain't I Chris today? He even allowed me to borrow his glasses. How about this? So if you're Bradley Beal, when you talk to me about him being moved, you know the first thing I think about? I feel bad for Russ. I feel bad for Russ. His last couple of stops, he got a chance to play with KD, and then he ended up leaving. The team traded Harden. Ain't nothing he can do about that. Go to Houston. Don't really get a chance to play that long again with Harden. Now you get to Washington. Y'all show some promise late in the season, and Bradley Beal may potentially ask for a trade. But here's what I want to make sure I acknowledge for you, David.
What's up?
This is actually a good thing for Russ, because if Bradley Beal requests a trade, that means they talked about it. And if they talked about it, that means Washington can look up, and once training camp starts, there's a good chance that they have a new roster. Is Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook at this point of their careers the future of the Washington Wizards? I ask you, is that the future? Since it's not, you got to go ahead and start laying them dominoes right now if you're their general manager, Tommy Shepard, because both of those guys' value is as high as it's going to get. And you got to sell high in this case.
And there's so many duos in the league. And Jalen, what do I always say about duos? You've heard this a million times. I like my duos to be complementary. While Beal and Westbrook are both great contributors, they're not complementary players to each other. Something tells me they will not be a duo on the Wizards moving forward. But who will get moved? We will see. The question now in the air is, will Kawhi Leonard return to the Clippers? Friend of the show, Mark Stein, reported that it's not necessarily a guarantee that he'll be back, and maybe the Heat or the Knicks or some other teams, the Mavs, would show interest. And our guy Woj, your Countdown Crew brother, said that he's not sold on that. He sees Kawhi with the Clippers. Rostradamus, where do you see Kawhi next year?
As a member of the Clippers, because these all-time great players, Jacoby, you know what they don't want to do? Be like me and bounce all around the NBA if they don't have to. So Kawhi goes to Toronto after leaving San Antonio and wins the championship. Now he picks his destination. He's at where he's at. He be where he want to be. And you know what you don't want to do this offseason? Be bouncing around taking team meetings on crutches. because you just had surgery. You stay with the Clippers, you get as much money as possible, and they already have established a relationship that you're going to miss games due to load management. See, what happens now, you go somewhere else, they're like, well, I guess you could play 75 games. Why don't you try it? But in this situation, the Clippers have already basically built the equity with Kawhi Leonard. He's probably going to play 65 games a year. Paul George ascended, and his confidence grown after this playoff run. So he's shown that he can hold it down when Kawhi's not going to be there. And this for the Clippers, to me, as they move into a new arena, you want to have Kawhi Leonard in uniform, I believe he'll be there.
I think he'll be there as well. I mean, this isn't the Kawhi Leonard free agents that we saw after his championship, finals MVP in Toronto. He was healthy. He was the king of the court. He was at the mountaintop. He just had the finals MVP. After the bubble collapse and after this year, after knowing that he won't even be able to take the floor until probably after the All-Star break, I don't know if that is a player that wants to be in the market or a player that teams are necessarily want to bring into their franchise at the price tag that he's going to demand. Jalen Anthony Rose, you're never going to believe this. You're never going to believe this. There are reports about a star player going to the Los Angeles Lakers. I know that's hard for you to wrap your head around, but the latest is that the Spurs free agent DeMar DeRozan would take less money to come to the Lakers. Now, keep in mind, he was making a lot of money, and the Lakers could offer him the $9.5 million. Something tells me when he talks about getting a haircut, he's talking about a sign and trade, not necessarily signing for $9.5 million a year.
You never get what you deserve in business, only what you have the leverage to negotiate. And what this sounds like here is a seasoned veteran player who's a perennial 20-plus point scorer understands if he's going to be on a contender, he's not going to make the kind of bread that he made in San Antonio. In theory, the thing that broke he and Kyle Lowry up from Toronto is they both needed to get their money. And so since he went to San Antonio and got his bread, Kyle Lowry stayed in Toronto and got his bread. Those are going to be two of the 500 players that the national media put on the Lakers this offseason.
We're running out of Photoshop. We have so many players for the Lakers so far. Lowry, DeRozan, Westbrook, Beal,
CP3.
Yeah, CP3, Dame. We have so many players on the Lakers. They're going to have a 25-man roster and a $4 million cap, $400 million cap. Exactly. Oh, I forgot Buddy Hield. He's also on the Lakers next year. Well, coming up next, Michael Thomas will be on the Saints next year, but will he be playing with the Saints? Decided to have surgery in June. We'll discuss the timing of that surgery, the future of him in the Saints, right after this on Jalen Jacoby.
Got to give the people